Hello, everybody. It's been a little while since I've spoken directly about HBAR, so I figured it was time to give an update video. A little bit more is I want to give 5 things that predominantly happened or greatly expanded in 2025 for HBAR that I think are going to be massive things we have kind of already talked about, but also going to continue talking about from this bull run, some maybe little bit longer, and they're all going to have a big difference or could at least greatly impact price action of our beloved HBAR. So I don't want to get too much to what Hedera is if you're not familiar with it. Not because I feel like being lazy, but in all honesty, HBAR is one of the most diverse crypto companies out there. I mean, you can't really pin it to one narrative. It's done DeFi, it's dabbled in AI, does a lot of data storage, does a lot of tokenization, real world asset. There's a lot of things that it does, and it's even expanding upon that. I mean, it airs Karate Combat for crying out loud with its own little crypto exchange feature going with it. So I will go ahead and say, hey, do your own research if you're not familiar with HBAR, but it is arguably my second most, first to second, I gotta say, most bullish crypto. It's right there with quant. If you guys have been with me for a while, you know how I feel about it. But let's get into 5 things that have either happened or expanded so far in 2025. It's going to take HBAR even further. Let's hop into it. So I'm putting these in no particular order, not necessarily of importance or what I think is going to be the bigger deal or cause the most price action. But let's start on one that's kind of went under the radar. You might not have heard about it, even if you're studying Hedera quite a bit. And it's really about global and financial institutional engagements and how they're working with different countries, specifically South Korea. So they've made a partnership with the Shinhan. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but we'll call it the Shinhan Bank, which is apparently one of the largest banks in South Korea. And they even successfully conducted like little remittances or sending payments back and forth on Hedera's network. As right now, it's still, I think, officially a testing sequence, but that's another bank in the pocket. And when we're talking about a large bank for any country, this is a big deal because it's going to be at the minimum tens of millions of dollars that's going in and through Hedera, increasing the CBDCs and everything that's on there. So that's always awesome. Secondarily, is that they've recently had a new member joining their governing council, being the Nairobi Securities Exchange, and this was out of Kenya. So why does this matter? Why does a company you've probably never heard of actually mean anything? And it's government based, and it's another exchange committee, right? Anyone that goes on to the governing council, it's not a rule or law saying that you have to have a partnership with Hedera, but every single one of them have or has something building with it. So it just adds to the whole spectrum of large ass companies and corporations that are each worth, a couple $billion minimum. We got Microsoft, Google, IBM, Dell, Aberdeen, all kinds of other big companies and corporations. And you just add another one into it. It's more money that's coming through Hedera, which is awesome. Now, ETFs. This one is I have no idea when, but I kind of have an idea when this could end up happening. So there's 2 large ETFs that have been filed for Hedera. Right? There's Grayscale and there's Canary. Canary actually went first, and the Canary ETF has actually been extended by the SEC to where they're saying they should have a final decision made by it's June 11th of this year. So in about 3 weeks, right? That is a big deal. It doesn't mean that it's going to launch in 3 weeks on June 11th, but let's be honest, in the crypto space, no one actually cares about what's happening. They care about what they think could happen. The market is completely based on speculation and emotion. So when we get an announcement at what I think is going to be a phenomenal time for great news in the middle of June, awesome to hear. I'm expecting that they're going to pass through Canary ETF because there's really no reason for them not to. They don't have to worry about, is it a security versus commodity kind of issue that they've had to deal with XRP specifically. So that's all good news. And behind it a little bit is Grayscale's ETF. And for Grayscale, it was first put onto the SEC desk around March. So they have roughly a 240-day period between it's like a 3-week public comment period and a couple other things. So this one might not affect us this bull run, kind of depending on how long it goes. If it goes past quarter 1 next year, which I personally don't think it will, but plenty of other people do. So it might be relevant. But what does matter again is, will there be another announcement? Because they can call it early. All right. I think go ahead and decide that early on, maybe in October, like, do you know what? We're going to pass this ETF through. Maybe pushing Canary through first is going to give them, do you know what? F it. Let's just freaking go. And again, timing of everything matters a lot, because when there's bullish sentiment in the market, even mild to mediocre news goes a lot further. So looking forward to the ETF announcements. I still do kind of think that XRP, Solana, and Litecoin, maybe Doge, is going to get announced or at least come out first. But Hedera is right on the heels, and there seems to be a lot of government backing behind it, which is always awesome. Hedera dabbling a little bit into the AI interspace. I mean, I don't personally consider Hedera an AI coin. It helps with AI to an extent because of the partnership that started at the end of 2024 with both NVIDIA and Intel for GPU and CPU specifically. But what they're using for is in their CPU and GPU chips, they're using Hedera to help out with the verifiable compute. From what I gather, it's pretty much just a solution aiming to make sure that everything's trusted, the verification and compliance on all applications is supposed to be there, and it gives it a decentralized mode, meaning there's no independent party that controls what information is going into the AI. So it's not like where just NVIDIA can put information into the AI protocols and control everything. This way, Hedera, being decentralized, can have all the data, and it kind of makes it so it's not really manipulable, which is a big deal when you're talking about AI, which is right now just controls a shit ton of information. But down the road, it's very likely AI is going to control a lot of other things. And if you have a centralized AI chip, whoever owns it can feed it all the information that we want. And then, to be a little over dramatic, we get Terminator and the Matrix. And there's actually a way that that could happen. It's not going to happen. Conspiracy theorist. But it's a big deal. You almost need to have something decentralized to run AI. Otherwise, one person's actually controlling all of it. And that's not going to be good for anyone, except for maybe for that one person. There's another partnership. I'm going to tie this in with AI, but I guess technically this is probably a completely different partnership. So we'll call them, giving you guys 6 things, is Hedera's expanded relationship with Chainlink. So I plan on putting out a Chainlink video review, everything out there soon. It's not one that I own, but I'm a big fan of it. I think it is incredibly comparable to Hedera in many different ways, but they partnered in 2024 and they expanded upon it a little bit this year in 2025. So to keep this very short, and feel free to yell at me, say more things in the comments down below. I'll hit it in the Chainlink video, but feel free to share it with a group if you want more information on it. Is Chainlink essentially put in its Oracle solutions into Hedera to help out tokenization and DeFi. And that was a lot, or not a lot, it was like 3 or 4 large words. And what the bleep does that actually mean? It pretty much has added everything that Chainlink can reach to, because one of its aspects is interoperability, connecting, I think it was like 46 different blockchains altogether. They now added that information onto Hedera. And not only is it added into Hedera, but now Hedera and honestly any of those other blockchains or companies that run on those other 46 blockchains can create dApps to put on Hedera. And they're just decentralized applications, which means it's essentially just putting more outreach for more companies to go into Hedera to expand what it does, bring more TVL, and increase the price action, increase just the amount of money that's coming in and out, which is awesome. Chainlink and Hedera is a great little combination together. So another partnership with Hedera, which I feel maybe I just didn't hear about it very loudly. Like I heard when it happened, but LCX. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Should I try to pronounce it? It was Liechtenstein Crypto Assets Exchange. How does that go? This is what I've been looking at for a while. In short, it's a European based blockchain that's really big on tokenization. Like they're trying to do tokenization of real world assets, real estate, bonds, company shares, art. I think they had a big thing about shoes for a little while because I remember kind of laughing at that. But they have their own exchange. They have their own terminal for trading, which is just another expansion that Hedera can end up using. And they token launch for a bunch of different infrastructure. LCX alone is a pretty solid company. I looked in that one a couple of times. I never jumped in onto it, but I do think it's going to again help reach out Hedera getting larger. And not for nothing, with Hedera being an Americanized crypto, this could also come in handy depending on what all Donald Trump ends up pushing about having, hopefully for us, sorry guys, but having no long term capital gains would be cool. Just another reason for me to keep putting money into Hedera. But Hedera's been always been good with expanding upon their network, shaking hands with large companies, and LCX is. I think that's a good one. Chainlink is a bigger deal. I'll be honest, it really is, at least for now. But every big hand they shake is more money going in the pockets. It's awesome stuff. Lastly, let's briefly touch upon good old Elon Musk and SpaceX. So back in January, back in January, SpaceX, which is one of Elon Musk's company, sent a rocket up in space, not a rocket, a satellite. It used rocket technology, but this one was actually successful, and it ran with Hedera technology inside of it. And at this time, Hedera increased by about 300%. No, I do not expect the next satellite to launch to increase it by 300%. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's about 50 to 75% increase in about a week. And this is going to happen in June. There is not a specific date. I think they're still trying to figure out some of the logistics. But it's going to happen in June. It looks like they're also looking to launch one out in October and December. So there's a couple different times where all Elon Musk has to do, and he's been known to do this, is just put out a tweet that has something like the Hedera symbol on a rocket or on a satellite. And again, crypto's a popularity contest. If 1 million people see that, I don't know, go a random number, a high percentage, let's say 100,000 of them, are going to buy HBAR from it, or they're going to talk more about it and pass it around so that more people get into it. It's great news when you have a company that freaking big that's using Hedera. And if you're curious why would we have Hedera in a satellite? It comes back to decentralization, pretty much as having a company that doesn't really own the information, store all the information that's being passed and forth from satellites. And every time any data goes back and forth from like one satellite to another radio terminal, etc., a little HBAR is used because we'll call it gas fees, right? So just more use in transactions of it. And when you have 4 different satellites out there and they're all pinging each other essentially constantly, that's a great little cycle and circle of HBAR that's being used, not to mention then ping back down to our wonderful planet down here with more information, data storage, etc. So just more uses is always a plus. It's also kind of cool that we can say that Hedera is almost literally going to the moon on this one. But again, get ready to hear more about it. It's going to happen around mid-June. I'm guessing it's going to be around the 15th to 20th. We'll wait to see when they have the final announcement of all of that. So hopefully this is a brief little just update. Again, some of these things you might have already heard of, but we forget about things so quickly, guys. We are so short-term focused on things in crypto. So I just want to remind us of things that Hedera has been working on, because these things will come back up, especially things like when there is an additional satellite that goes out, or when LCX, something could happen to that in the positive, and they mention Hedera, right? So it's always good to see companies work with other companies, especially when they're large. It's great. But let me know in the comments below, what's some updates or announcements that have really excited you? Or is there any that you're looking forward to that you think is going to be announced? That would be really big for HBAR. Guys, let me know down below. And as always, I appreciate you guys being here. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.